An ideal marriage can indeed end unexpectedly, and I know this all too well from personal experience. It's a bitter reality I had to come to terms with. But now, I feel prepared to share the story. Amelia and I go way back, way further than I could have ever imagined. We were in parallel classes during school, and our homes were side by side. What began as a simple friendship blossomed into something deeper over time. We became each other's first love, and that bond grew even stronger. Amelia waited patiently for me while I completed my mandatory service in the Army. Afterward, I went on to university, and only after that did we get married. We decided from the start that we'd handle everything on our own. We didn't ask our parents for a single penny for the wedding. From the beginning, we lived life on our terms. We didn't feel any rush to start a family. Neither of us had any particular longing for diapers and baby clothes at first. It wasn't until we reached our 30s that the idea of having children began to feel like something we could consider. But even then, our focus was primarily on saving up for a down payment on a house. When we finally thought we were ready to buy, the bank rejected our mortgage application. That was a crushing blow, but it sparked a new idea. The solution was to take out the mortgage in my father's name, with the plan to transfer ownership to us once we'd paid off. At that moment, I felt incredibly lucky to have my father's support. Over time, things started improving. Our incomes rose steadily, and we didn't feel the need to rush paying off the mortgage. We made other purchases too. A car, then another. Since I was self-employed as a programmer, we chose to keep those purchases in my parents' names. We didn't want to draw attention to our finances. Why not use Amelia's family's name, you might ask? Sadly, that wasn't an option. Amelia had lost both her parents in a devastating car accident. Their vehicle had skidded on a slippery highway and collided with oncoming traffic. That loss left a deep, irreplaceable void in both our lives. I mourned their deaths as deeply as Amelia did. But with time, Amelia found a way to rise above her grief, and together, we managed to rebuild something resembling normality. Our relationship had always been rock solid. We never fought, not even over the small, everyday things. We always talked things through, calmly and with understanding. In fact, sometimes I used to joke that things were so peaceful, it almost got a little too quiet around the house. But then, out of nowhere, everything changed. One day, Amelia exploded. I still don't fully understand what happened, but that moment remains etched in my mind. Amelia had always done the grocery shopping on her own. It was a simple routine. She'd go to the store, pick up what we needed, and then load the bags into the car. I never thought much of it, and neither did she. It worked for us. But on this particular day, something was off. As she came back to the car, her frustration was palpable. She yelled at me, her voice thick with irritation and annoyance. I tried to reach out to her, to console her, but she pulled away, her eyes red and tears streaming down her face. I stood there, speechless, feeling the weight of her anger. "Why didn't you just call me? I could have come to help," she shouted. "Why can't you figure things out for yourself just once?" Her words stung, each one sharper than the last. She didn't stop there. In a fit of frustration, she jumped to her feet and stormed toward the door. I was in shock, unable to fully grasp what was happening. "Where are you going?" I asked, my voice trembling, unsure of how to react. "I'm tired," she said, her voice breaking as she tried to hold back the tears. "I'm staying with Lucy for now." She slammed the door behind her, leaving me standing there, lost and confused. For the first time in my life, I felt completely helpless. She had screamed at me over something as trivial as groceries, and then just walked out on me. But deep down, I knew it wasn't really about the groceries. Something else was bothering her, something she hadn't shared with me. I convinced myself that she just needed time to cool off. But as days turned into weeks, my attempts to reach out, calling, texting, even leaving messages, went unanswered. By the third week, I was still at a loss, unsure of what to do or how to fix what seemed so broken. I gave up on the silence. It lingered for another 2 weeks, each day stretching into an unspoken tension that seemed endless. Then, one day, Lucy appeared at my doorstep. Yes, that Lucy, Amelia's best friend, the one she'd been staying with for the past 6 weeks. Hey, Mason. I'd never been particularly fond of Lucy, but today there was something different about her. Something unsettling. I crossed my arms, eyeing her suspiciously. What are you doing here? Did Amelia send you? I asked, narrowing my eyes, as she stepped into my apartment without waiting for an invitation. Lucy's voice was calm, but there was an underlying edge to it. Something she wasn't saying. She pouted, folding her arms in front of her, as if she were settling into a conversation she had all the time in the world to finish. Let's just say this was my decision, she replied, casually sitting down on the couch and draping one leg over the armrest. It was almost a move that felt deliberate, calculated, as though she were trying to assert control over the situation. I felt my irritation rising, creeping into my voice. What do you want, Lucy? I asked, already tired of this unexpected intrusion. She hesitated for a brief moment before standing up, her movements almost too smooth, too confident. Then, before I could react, she leaned in to kiss me. It was as if her actions were deliberate, designed to test my resolve. But before I could process it, she pulled back with a strange, cold smile. I'm really trying to save your marriage, she said, her tone laced with something insidious. I glared at her, my pulse quickening, but she didn't flinch. You know, Amelia's not quite the angel you thought she was, Lucy continued, her words dripping with malice. After her parents died, she needed some diversion, so she joined a dating site. I froze, my mind struggling to comprehend her words. I could barely find my voice. But then, as if to punctuate her statement, Lucy's hand began sliding down toward my pants. That was enough. I jumped back, my skin burning with a mixture of disbelief and anger. I stood there, stunned, and tried to process what was happening. Let's just say she's been busy lately, Lucy added with a grin that was anything but friendly. Too ashamed to confront you. The shock was overwhelming, as if someone had doused me in ice-cold water. Lucy's grin widened ever so slightly, and she added, "But hey, if you're tired of her games, I'm always around." I stared at her, fighting to stay composed. What do you expect me to do with this information? I asked, my voice cold and detached. Lucy's grin faltered, but she shrugged. Suit yourself, Mason. From the top of a world to this, she spat, her words thick with disdain. I didn't think twice. Get out, I said sharply, my tone as steely as I could make it. She hesitated, trying to regain some semblance of composure. But this is her apartment, too, she said, as if that somehow mattered. I didn't even flinch. No, this is my father's apartment, I corrected her, my voice firm. And the car she's been driving to her dates, that's his too. I walked to the door, opened it, and motioned for her to leave. Leave the keys in the mailbox. And Lucy, it's better if you don't come back here. With that, I closed the door behind her, and the finality of it all felt strangely liberating. At first, I didn't feel anything. I'd gotten so used to living without Amelia, the void she left seemed almost natural. Sure, in the weeks before, when she was pulling away, there were moments, nagging doubts, fleeting thoughts. Could she really just leave? But I pushed those thoughts aside. Now, my suspicions were no longer vague. They were confirmed. She was gone. And strangely, in that moment, I felt lighter. The weight of it all, the uncertainty and the heartache, seemed to lift off my shoulders. The divorce was swift and painless, at least on paper. There was nothing to divide, no possessions or shared belongings to haggle over. But Amelia didn't go quietly. She bombarded my phone with messages, desperate to reach me, to explain, to somehow claw her way back into my life. Finally, she came to return the keys, tossing them at me in frustration. "You're really going to let your wife just roam the world like this?" she muttered bitterly, her voice sharp. I looked at her, unshaken. "Honey, you left on your own," I said, my words calm, almost detached. And that's it. That's how it happened. That's how it ended. I never saw it coming. But in the end, what was done was done.